All right, you would have seen the Public Protector's report as far as NSFAS is concerned, and let's look at the challenges facing this institution, including leadership and governance issues, as well as the recent Public Protector's report. We speak now to the South African Union of Students President, Siyabonga Nkambako. Siya, good evening to you, and thank you so much for your time. Perhaps we start with, Advocate Kollega Kalega says that the issues at NSFAS are systemic in nature and are of great public interest and importance to the people of South Africa, but a lot of what she had to say is nothing new. And I wonder, what is your reaction to her probe?
Firstly, good evening to you and good evening to your viewers at home. Firstly, as the South African Union of Students, we'd like to appreciate the Public Protector's initiative to conduct the investigation, and for also reaching out to the South African Union of Students for us to be able to make comments and make a contribution in terms of the new problems that have started surfacing at NSFAS, and also make recommendations in terms of how best can we be able to resolve the issues that we have identified there by NSFAS. Before, that opportunity was not granted to the union, whereas we've had quite a number of plans that can be able to provide a turnaround at NSFAS, such that all of these systematic issues will be resolved, and all of this backlog of appeals that the Public Protector is speaking about will be resolved, and the release of certificates for students who have completed their qualifications within these institutions can also be able to receive them. So the report by the Public Protector is welcomed, and we are also hoping that there will be thorough investigation that's also going to be done towards the issues that have been identified now, not the issues that were identified before.
And I want to stay with something that you've hinted at, because these apparent failures, right, have serious consequences, and especially for the students who rely on NSFAS for funding.
Yes, they do have serious consequences simply because whenever there is maladministration at NSFAS and all of these systematic issues that have been identified by the Public Protector, it results into a student that is deserving to receive NSFAS funding not receiving it, simply because of these issues that have been identified. It also results to NSFAS ending up defunding students whom they funded during the beginning of the year, and then at a later stage, when they've identified that they funded the wrong people, they end up wanting to pull back this funding from students, and then after pulling it back, they leave the students, resulting into owing institutions of higher learning, having nothing to eat whenever they're within residences, and also being subject of people that are going to use the very same students in return for them to be able to give them money and all of the materialistic things. And there's also something else that we have noted. Through all of this funding, the findings that have been found by the Public Protector and some of the findings that are being found by NSFAS, whenever they start recouping all of these funds, they leave students being subject of investigations by institutions and also being subject of attending courts simply because of the mistakes that have been made by the National Financial Aid Scheme because of its systematic issues. And that's something that we cannot allow. Even if they saw at a later stage that the student was not deserving, it's them that are supposed to be dealing with the consequences, not students that end up being affected because of their failures.
Yeah, and while this report was being released, there's also, of course, the other story that impacts NSFAS that's also been taking place, if one could even say, a parallel one. And this is the reinstatement of the board and the suspension of Professor Hlengani Matebula as the administrator. Of course, this is on an interim basis, but I wonder, how are the students viewing these developments?
We welcome the decision by the court. From the onset, we have been clear as the South African Union of Students to say that there was no need for the Minister of Higher Education and Training, Buti Manamela, to put NSFAS under administration. When the minister took that decision, he took that decision alone. He never consulted any stakeholders that are affected in the country. When he decided to put NSFAS under administration, I can confirm to you now that everything was running smooth. The organization were on its way to finding stability. Appeals were being responded on time. Payments were going to institutions on time. Landlords were able to receive funds on time, and there were no students that were being kicked out of residences. And There was an issue of allowances as well that were being paid on time. And there was that flow of information that was happening in the entire sector. And then immediately once the minister decided to put NSFAS under administration, that's when we started to absorb another level of students that started being defunded, gap investigation cases started increasing, and the payments to institutions, it ended up being on a go-slow simply because the administrator was still understanding how NSFAS works and how NSFAS operates.
And so now, from your vantage point, because there's a number of recommendations that have been made, for example, including what you've mentioned around institutional debt recovery, but also the new funding model, etc. In light of everything else that has been going on at NSFAS for years, it's been a conversation we've had for so long, and one hopes that at some point we could even have an NSFAS that is functioning properly. What is that one thing that you believe needs to be done as a matter of urgency to get this institution working in the manner in which it's supposed to be?
The first point of departure from the board, since they've been reinstated, we are truly hoping that they will write to the National Treasurer for National Treasurer to cover the shortfall that has been identified, which is a shortfall of 15 billion. So that we can be able to fund the students that have been defunded by NSFAS after NSFAS having to fund those students. We're also hoping that the board is going to be able to strengthen the relations together for them, together with National Treasurer, SARS, Home Affairs, so that come next year when we reopen applications for next year, we are able to establish a solid relationship between these three government entities. And I want to place it on record and be clear. We are not saying that NSFAS must be dissolved or NSFAS must be removed and funds be paid directly to institutions by National Treasurer. That is not our stance. But we are saying that we need to formulate some sort of a working relations between National Treasurer and NSFAS. Then we bring in all the key role players, which will be from the side of students, the side of the Department of Higher Education and Training, the side of the Portfolio Committee in Higher Education and Training, that they be a task team that's going to be able to oversee all of the funds that are coming in at NSFAS and all of the funds that are leaving NSFAS. It will also give National Treasurer an eye to see that the shortfalls that are coming in, where they're coming from, and the demand of students who are passing in institutions or that are in high schools so that they can enter institutions of higher learning, because it's increasing each and every year. So that's why we want National Treasurer to form part and parcel of all the discussions that have to do with NSFAS and the funding of students, so that all the time.
And in about 20 seconds, to the Minister.
What we want the Minister, we have been writing quite a number of emails to the Minister, speaking on issues that are emanating in the sector, and all of those issues that we've been speaking about, we are now seeing the results of him ignoring us. The CPUT is currently under strike. You have UFH that's also under strike, and similarly, there are other institutions as well that are planning the same thing. And the failure for the minister to respond to all of our issues is going to lead the entire country into a huge instability that we are trying to avoid. For him to come and speak to the union, to speak to students, it's something that's going to guarantee us stability, and we'll also be able to assist with all the proposals that we think are the best to assist the country in moving forward. Right now, we see the Department of Education and Training at autopilot, and he needs to step up. We are really worried as the Union of Students.
Appreciate your time. Thank you for speaking to us. That was the South African Union of Students President, Siyabonga Nkambako.